rupe rupe o ki koe no taku ana. Tiare hina ngaro ia koe au e, e tiare o ki koe no te kainga. E tiare puera rupe rupe o ki koe no taku ana. Taku tiare no te kainga. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro e. Taku tiare no te kainga. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Te roi mata te mama e. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Te roi mata te mama e. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Tiare o ki koe no te kainga. E tiare puera rupe rupe o ki koe no taku ana. Taku tiare no te kainga. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Te mama e, e taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Te roi mata te mama e, e taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. E taku ana, kua moe kua mai taku ina ngaro. Kakakoro makiau ia koe he. E whai toi toa wau I tōku nei o raraha. Ko tau hara karawe au ki runga ia kune. Te mamae nei I tōku tino nei. Kakakoro makiau ia koe he. E whai toi toa wau I tōku nei o raraha. Ko tau hara karawe au ki runga I akune. Te mamae nei tōku tino nei. Do you remember the promise you said? Love you don't. You don't remember the promise you say. Te mamae nei, te ngengeti nei, te oto nei, tōku tino. Do you remember the promise you say, baby? Love you don't. You don't remember the promise you say. mamae nei te ngengeti nei te oto nei toku tino No matter what, darling, no matter what, how bad you are, I always love you from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Kakakoro makiau ia koe he e whai toi tō a mau i tō unei o raraha ko tau hara tara me au ki runga i atu ne e mamae nei i tōku tino nei Do you remember the promise you said Love you don't You don't remember the promise you say Te mamae nei, te ngengeti nei, te oto nei Toku tino Do you remember the promise you said Love you don't You don't remember the promise you said Te mamae nei, te ngengeti nei Otone, Dokuchino. Te mamae nei, te ngengeti nei, te otone, Dokuchino. Ya vai te ha, te hiriru to ia taua. Oh, Tata ua tamari I, ya vai oa, I roto tora ua orara, e te utu a pare. I love you all, I love you my children. I mi vau te rave a, ya vai te ha, te hiriru to ia taua. Tata ua tamari I, ya vai oa oa, I roto tora ua orara e te utu a pare. Baby, give me one more chance, no matter what, I always love you. No matter what, I always love you. Deep inside my heart and my soul, no te aha, no te heredia oe. Baby, love you, love you. No matter what, I always love you. Oh, no matter what, I always love you. Deep inside my heart and my soul, no dia, no heredia oe. Ooh la la, honey, come home, come home. My love for you never changes. No matter what. Always in my heart. Ole! Orera, oto kere ya oi. Te io to koe to mapati. I love you all. I love myself because I'm still alive. It's like this, baby. Ini vau tirave a, ya vai te ha. Te heriru to ia taua. Oh, Tata ua tamari I, ya vai oa oa, I roto i tora ua orara e te utu a whare. One more time, man. Oh, imi wau te rawe a, ia vai te ha, te here roto i a taua. Oh, tata ua tamari i, ia vai oa oa, i roto i tō raua o rara a, e te utu a whare. Oh, no matter what, I always love you, baby. No matter what, I always love you. Deep inside my heart and my soul. No, yeah, no, yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. No matter what, I always love you, baby. Say, no matter what, I always love you. Deep inside my heart and my soul. No, yeah, no, yeah, oh yeah. No matter what, I always love you, baby. Yeah. No matter what, I always love you. Deep inside my heart and my soul. No, yeah, oh yeah. No, yeah, oh yeah. No, yeah, oh yeah. Oh yes, my love, honey, you realize the things that I did for you, my love. You have to be sure when I walk out there. I love you, and I love myself. Yes, I'm still alive. Ayoa, yakue. Kia no kui mati au roto i toe o rara o au e. I can't get over the way you love me like you do, but I have to be sure when I walk out that door. If I yoa ia koe, kia no kui mati au roto i toe o rara. I can't get over the way you love me like you do, but I have to be sure when I walk out that door. You realize the things that I did for you, my love. You realize the things that
Two. 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 Just. 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 Check. 1, 2.
Can I ask everybody to move to the front? Let's start filling the front row first so that you're closer to the panel and can hear everything. And if you have to speak or comment, we can hear you too. Ere mai tātou ki mua nei, kaka ki tātou a mua nei, ere mai te au taia ki nā muri ake rer, kaka ki rātou a muri atu. Ere mai tātou ki mua nei, te taine tō tātou ora ka matao. No reira, ia koto ere mai nei ki roto, me tika ere mai tātou ki mua nei, kia waitata tātou ki te pai, i tō tātou garunga tuatua i no runga i tō tātou tumu mana ko i te ia ai. Thank you for accepting the invitation to come close. We're going to begin. So, first of all, kia orana tātou katoa. And that means, may you all live long. And welcome to our second speakers debate. This is the second time, so I welcome all of us this evening. Before I say prayer, I just want to share a thought, a devotional thought that I shared with my family this morning. It's simply entitled, God's Gift to the Human Race. And of course, the text is well known to us. It's found in John chapter 3, verse 16. And you can read with me, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Let us pray. Tō mātou me tua tapu, i roto i te iai, ko ki te koe te tumu i putu mai e mātou, ki roto i te ngutu are, te akakoroanga, e te tumu manako ka uri mātou. Te tukune mātou i te ia, ki roto i tō onima ma te pati i tō o vairua, ke piri mai ki tā mātou uri anga manako. E kia tupu tō o anono auraka tō mātou tō te tangata. E meitaki rai no tō mātou i te tangata. Tā mātou pure te ia, tā mātou pati te ia, i roto i te ingo mana o Yesu, kia ora mātou i a koe. Amen. Now I hand over to Madam Speaker.
Meitaki maata e Isaac, meitaki no tō tātou pure mānea, tā au rave mai. Kia ora ana koutou kātotoa, te aka kotinga i tō koutou tuatau, kia tai mai koutou kātotoa ki te ia anga, tā tātou e rave nei, no roto mai i te tuanga o tō tātou pāramani, tō tātou are maani ture. Me te rā te tū, kua tā kotinga ia, te ora e akamatai e oti ei tātou i te rā. Me te ora 5 ki te ora itu akamutu. Nō reira, kia kare maata te tuatau i te aka arawe atu i a koto, tātakita marira ke tika i a koto, kia ariki mai i te aka arawe anga no te katotoa. Greetings and welcome to everyone here in the auditorium this evening. We are actually constrained by time today from 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock. And we're going to try and keep our debate today within those times, because we appreciate that you have given your time this evening to be here on a topic that is very, very important to us as Cook Islanders, and that is also around the world. And so I won't have time to greet you individually, but I extend to you a very, very warm welcome for allowing your time to come and be with us this evening to have this speakers debate. But may I say thank you very much to our New Zealand High Commissioner and his staff who are here and colleagues from New Zealand, because without their assistance through the MFAT to UNDP, we may not have been able to have this debate, as we have a program for 3 years that they support for us to be able to do the extra activities within the Parliament of the Cook Islands. And so I thank you very much, the New Zealand High Commission. And that's because he can ask them to extend our 3 years, which comes to an end at the end of this year. And if we do well, that could be very positive for us. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have a panel positioned in the front here. And we have given you this little booklet, which actually tells you about each member who is sitting up in the front here. Their little bio to tell you as to why they are sitting in the front of the panel. And for the topic that we're discussing today, it is on how is mental health addressed in the Cook Islands, and is it effective? We don't need to ask, is there mental health in the Cook Islands? Because we know there is. Many of us have families we're experiencing as caregivers or as people who are living with a mental illness. What we want to know from our panelists up here is, how are we going to be able, as a country, as a community, to make it better? For how effective can we be in the way we address mental health? And what we did before coming up to the front, each of the panelists drew a number out of a hat at the back there. So there is no particular rhyme or reason as to why people are numbered, who goes first, who's second, but drawing out of the hat as they arrived at the door. So it is with great pleasure that I invite the Honourable Minister Nandi Glassie, responsible for the Ministry of Health that takes care of our people in regards to health, which is on the topic that we're talking about today. And I give the floor 5 minutes. I'm going to be really tough here. 5 minutes. They might have a lot to say, but they'll have the opportunity to expand as the questions come. So the panelists will present to you their 5-minute talk, and then I will open the floor to you who are present here tonight to make a comment, to ask a question, to contribute to the discussions that are going to come up from the floor on the question, how are we going to make this more effective for people with mental health? I now invite our Minister to talk to you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, kia ora i te awatea. I'll be very brief within the span of 5 minutes. Let me start with a saying: without mental health, there can be no true physical health without mental health. And that was a statement made about 75 years ago by Brock Gieson, who was the first Director General of the World Health Organization. And at that time, being a psychiatrist and a psychologist at the same time, he rated mental health over other forms of health. He went on to state that health, as he defined, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or other illnesses. And he went to philosophize by saying that the health of all people is fundamental to the attainment of peace and security. And now, 75 years later, there is a clear evidence the relationship between mental illnesses, in particular depression and anxiety, and our physical health outcomes. Then the question posed, how is mental health addressed here in the Cook Islands, and is it effective? My approach to this topic is more policy approach. In other words, setting the scene. In order to look at mental health, we have to put in place very clear policies and very clear strategies. And therefore, over the past few years here in the Cook Islands, we have been doing just that, to build a strong policy and strategic planning in order to look at how we can strengthen the importance of current mental health services in the country in a practical way. How do we do that? Where do we get our compass from? First, we look at the global level. From the World Health Organization, they have a mental health global strategy that we piggyback on it. That gives the global direction on how to deal with the increase in mental health. So therefore, bring it to a regional level last year, when we have the Pacific Ministers' Health meeting, we have decided during that particular meeting to look at areas of adequate funding towards mental health, to look at highly specialized trained mental health workers, counselors, psychologists, and so forth. We also look at preparing ourselves in times of emergencies. Should there be a cyclone, a disaster somewhere, we need to have staff that are prepared, particularly in terms of coping with psychological stress. Fourthly, we also look at the importance of an enabling environment whereby we can keep our people with serious mental illnesses in close care. So how do we do that at ministerial level with the Ministry of Health? As I said that for the last 2 or 3 years, we have been focusing on putting in place regulations, policies, and strategies very quickly. Policies where we look at the direction in terms of addressing mental health and all the issues associated with mental health. The strategies, what are the steps that we are putting in place so that we can achieve what we have aspired to? Give you some examples. In the area of the Cook Islands mental health and well-being policy, we emphasize on identifying groups who are being affected by mental health one way or the other, whether they are 5-year-old children or 65-year-old adults. We look at in an integrated and responsive care. We look at emergencies and disasters. Then we look also at what sort of strategies we need to put in place. We have incorporated and inserted in just about every plan here in the Cook Islands the importance of mental health. For example, in our disaster management plan, there is quite a few provisions on mental health. Our workforce plan are also being highlighted with mental health, and other programs that we have identified. Then we look at our 20-year health strategy. There is one focus area that we focus on, the strengthening of mental health well-being program, which also includes suicide prevention awareness. And further, we look at updating mental health register with diagnosis of people that have suffered from mental health. And the list goes on and on and on, which also include the post-traumatic. Well, I just got the warning now. Very quickly, I'll skip some of the points. What else are we doing? I want to impress on the audience that at the hospital there is a building that are being set aside for mental health patients. The building is to be based on specialist plan from New Zealand. It's not just any ordinary building, but we are waiting for that plan to come through. Through the Cook Islands Investment Corporation, we are just waiting for the plan to come through so that we can design that building to house those with serious mental health. There's also questions why we are putting our mental health patients in prison right at the moment. The reason for that is because that's the only secure place that we can accommodate those patients at the same time. And furthermore, what else are we doing to bring about effectiveness in how we address mental health? We also employed 2 clinical and general psychologists. One has just completed her term. So the Ministry of Health is looking for more psychologists, people with strong background in counseling, psychologically or emotional patients, so that they can be addressed as soon as we possibly can. Roundup. I really missed all the key points, but somehow, in terms of finishing off, I want to say that right now, the way we deal with mental health, we are very careful, we are very precise, and I can say that we are very, very effective in looking after those who have mental problems one way or the other. Thank you very much.
Wakarakara for the Minister. Now, to the panelists, if they don't say everything they want to say in the 5 minutes, there will be an opportunity to use the remaining of their points they would like to bring when you ask the questions from the front there. I'd also like to say hello to the people of the Outer Islands. Me ka inangaro koto I te tā niu mai ki roto I te programo. Te nā roto atu nei te programo I te ratio. Koto tikai I te pāinua, I whaoake I a rarotonga nei, kia tāniu mai koto I te numero, 5, ono, a, varu, rua. 56482. If you're listening in the Outer Islands or here in Rarotonga, that is the number that you call. There is a person who's going to be receiving your call. Take your ideas and your thoughts towards the debate, and they will bring them to me to share with the rest of you. So, me ka tāniu mai koe, tuku mai koe to o manako, ki te mama e teki nei the phone, ka tata ai e to o manako ki raro, e ka tuku mai ki aku e o rātu ki te katotoa, e te pau katoa I tā au huianga. Now let's go to our second speaker. And when they drew the cards, our second speaker is Te Uru. Ms. Te Uru Tira'a Passfield, who's representing the National Council of Youth in the Cook Islands. Floor is yours.
Kia ora all, my name is Te Uru Tira'a Passfield, and before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge my fellow panelists and their opinions, and especially the Honourable Speaker, MFAT and UNDP for enabling this open discussion on such a significant issue. I am truly grateful and humbled to be on this panel as a young person's voice, and I sincerely hope that I represent my peers well. I also acknowledge all the work that has been done in the area of mental health in the Cook Islands so far, and all those people who work and have worked in such a difficult area. To begin, I believe there are some good attempts being made to address some mental health issues here in the Cook Islands. However, it is my opinion that these attempts are not effective and will not be effective until people who suffer from mental health problems feel safe to reach out and ask for help. And unfortunately, this will not happen until we change our perception and understanding of mental health and foster a society where people do not feel judged or belittled for voicing what they are going through. Mental health problems have been proven to be influenced by life experiences such as trauma and abuse, and biological factors such as brain chemistry and genetics. Mental illness is real, just like diabetes. Would you tell somebody with a broken leg that it's all in their mind and just to shake it off? No. So why do we tell people living with depression to toughen up, to get over it, to be a man and don't let anyone see that you are struggling. When I was at school, a classmate was called an attention seeker by some for attempting suicide. They said that if she had wanted to do it, she would have done it by now. I often wonder how the people who said that felt when we said our final goodbyes at her funeral. I also wonder if we could have done more for her and everyone else who felt the despair that she must have felt if we had just been the kind of community who made people feel like it was okay to ask for help. It's not just depression that we do this with. On social media recently, a story was shared about a young local person who has some mental health problems who had committed a crime. Many of the comments acknowledged this mental illness, but followed up with comments such as, "Disgusting, this person is sick and should be thrown in jail," as if prison would address their health issues. People then went on to blame the family for allowing such behavior. It is no wonder that many individuals and families resist using our mental health services and feel shame about things that should not be shameful. I wish the keyboard warriors would put all the energy that they put into vilifying mental health sufferers and their families into coming up with real solutions to help our people. In addition to changing our reactions, I also think that there needs to be more awareness raised of the services that are currently available. If, after having my baby in 2016, I were to realize that I was suffering from postpartum depression, I would have had absolutely no idea where to go or who to ask for help. I was not told during or after my pregnancy that it was even a possibility that I would need such services. I think information about mental health services should be easily accessible for all and should be promoted in all schools and workplaces throughout the country. In addition to the regular subjects, I believe that students should be taught life skills, how to handle emotions, and how to cope under pressure. There should also be a campaign on the role that physical health has on our mental health. The importance of regular exercise and enough sleep should be emphasized to everyone as an initial measure of improving mental health and well-being, as this has been scientifically proven. In summary, I believe that we will get there one day, but it is up to each of us to make changes to the way we perceive mental health and to become the support network that so many of our people need. Mei taki.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, Te Uru. And further information, this program is going live on internet. So anybody who's out there, in fact, this young lady's mother sent me a message from Samoa during the last debate we had. So we're hoping that many more will do the same. It is now my pleasure to call on the Dr. Rangi'au Whāriu, who looks after our people with mental illness at the hospital. And so the floor is yours, Dr. Whāriu.
Thank you, Nikki. Good evening, all. I think mental health is the poor cousin of medicine in any country in the world. In the Cook Islands, we have services for children, young people, adults, the elderly, and we also provide services for those in correction services, for probations, for the courts, Crown Law, and other agencies. Having traveled to other countries, having worked in New Zealand and traveled to most Pacific Islands, I can say that we have one of the best mental health services, if not in the Cook Islands or in the Pacific Island, certainly in our region. You see, our services, anytime people are referred to us, they are seen either immediately or within 24 hours. On top of that, we have a free service, free to anyone that comes to the country except tourists, those who haven't, for foreign workers who have spent less than 1 year in the country. We have outreach programs not only to provide medical and psychiatric services for prisoners, We also do screening for the age or of the age in other countries, in other islands, when we have the opportunity to go to those islands. We do have awareness programs. We do have domiciliary programs. These are home visits to those who are unable to attend our clinic, those who are too unwell to come to the clinic. We provide a 24/7 emergency services. See, all these services that I'm talking about, there's only 2 people who does that. We have 1 doctor and 1 nurse. In other countries, you have a psychiatrist for children, a psychiatrist for young people, a psychiatrist for adults, and a psychiatrist for the elderly. In the Cook Islands, it's 1 person rolled into 1. We do the best we can within the resources we have. We would love to have all the drugs and new drugs that other countries have. We would love to have people like occupational therapists, physiotherapists, psychologists to work with us. The fact is, we can't afford them. So it boils down to the 2 people that we have to do all of this within the means we have. There are some services that we don't have the skills for it, but there's nowhere else for these people to go to. So we try our best. We don't only provide medical or psychiatric services for them, we also do the other services that other people should be doing, like social work. Asking these people to, asking other agencies to come in, either for financial reasons, helping them in their rehabilitation programs, supporting Te Kāinga, who is doing a marvelous job in rehabilitating not only our young people with mental illness, but also the elderly who are forgetful, who has got dementia. Te Kāinga is providing all that services. And we are grateful to other agencies that supports us. We have SIFWA, we have Red Cross, we have Crown Law to help us. We have other government agencies, we have NGOs that supports our services. We are grateful to the Youth Council for promoting our suicide programs. You know, there are some times when, despite all the services that we put in place, for example, for suicide, someone will always do it. That's the fact of life. Yeah. We try our best not to do it. I mean, try our best to help people like that, but given the circumstances they are in, they would do it. We can only support them, we can only support the families. But all in all, I would say that we have one of the best services, and we have had, over the past 20 years in this service, we have only referred 2 people, 3 people to New Zealand. You see, for mental health, we don't have any, we can't do blood tests that will tell us, oh yes, you've got anxiety or you've got depression. There is the x-rays, but we don't have it here. But you can x-ray the head, and we can see mental illness there. We have to use our own clinical experience. We have to collaborate with the family, for people who has been working with this person, who will support us and to help us with our final diagnosis. As I've said earlier, we don't have the latest drugs that other countries have. We are limited to just 2 anti-anxiety drugs, 1 antidepressant, 3 antipsychotics. That's it. Other countries have far more than we have. But I think the very little we have, we are doing well with it. Thank you. I'm running out of time. Maybe if you have questions, you can ask me later.
Yes. Thank you very much to the Dr. Whāriu. We've had the Ministry of Health Minister we've had a doctor from the hospital, we've had the view of a youth member. We're now going to Mereana Taikoko. My friend Mereana here, we went to school together. And look, we're still here in the Cook Islands. Mereana is a psychiatric nurse, and Mereana is the lady who is in charge of Te Kāinga that Dr. Whariu has just mentioned. And I went to visit Mereana the other day, and it was just lovely to see the people who were there. And one thing she said to me that made me very proud of what she's doing, how important it is to maintain people with mental illness in a mental health state. So the home that she provides allows the people who are there to keep healthy by being occupied and by doing what they were doing. That's really stuck with me. So Mereana, you have the floor.
Thank you. Kia ora ana, and welcome everyone. Kia ora ana koto e korongoro mai ne te o taike te o pa inoi o mai. He rarotonga. I am happy to be here to just see all these people, helping us to raise awareness on mental health. It's actually unusual. We used to be just one voice, talking about mental health. And now I'm really, really, really pleased to see all of you here. Yeah, because mental health has always been a low priority, something that people look down on. But we're going to make all that, change all that from now on. Now, mental health in the Cook Islands. Well, sadly, the state of mental health in the Cook Islands is not good, as indicated by the high rate of youth suicides, domestic violence, alcohol and substance abuse, and non-communicable diseases. The decreasing population and increase in dependent elderly due to chronic medical problems and mental illness like dementia have put pressure on the remaining family members. They need respite or a break to de-stress and to help them continue to provide a quality care for their loved ones. Now, we're going back a bit to before 1998. Mental illness was a hidden disease in the Cook Islands. Sadly, today it remains hidden due to the stigma or, the thinking that mental health is something to be ashamed of. Often we find out only when there is a crisis, when the crisis happens and lives are at risk. For example, the triple shooting incidents. Before 1998, extreme cases of mental illness were transferred to prison, and there were constant referrals to New Zealand. Today, we continue to have the mentally ill cared for in prison, and some families send their mentally ill overseas to live with family. Before 1998, there was no government budget for mental health in this country. Today, there still is no mental health budget. The taunga back before 1998, taunga, Wairako, or our traditional healer, helped out with mental health problems. Today, they continue to have medicines available, although they're not here anymore. They're all gone overseas. They've left their medicines behind to help with stress and makitapiri. The makitapiri is still there. But it also affects your mental health. In 1998, the Richmond Fellowship in New Zealand, which is a mental health NGO, set up a community outreach mental health service on Rarotonga to address the high rates of referrals to New Zealand and frequent relapses of mental illness. They recruited a New Zealand-trained psychiatric nurse, yours truly, to follow up on patients after their discharge from hospital to ensure their treatment continued. It worked. There were fewer relapses and fewer referrals to New Zealand. Richmond Fellowship New Zealand closed its doors in 2007. The Te Kāinga NGO was formed in 2004 to help provide a range of mental health and related services for the 11 populated islands in the Cook Islands. We are very ambitious. These services include community education, so very important. These are training workshops, awareness, advocacy, and destigmatization campaigns is to reduce the fame of mental illness. Managing emergency cases, clinics for new and follow-up cases, stress management and psychosocial rehabilitation, day program for rehabilitation and respite for family caregivers. Alcohol support groups, Al-Anon meetings, and we also contact for AA, or Alcoholic Anonymous. Te Kāinga have always worked in partnership with the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, including hospital comforts and volunteers, both local and overseas. I would like to acknowledge now the huge contribution by Te Kāinga's mentor, consultant psychiatrist Dr. Parameswara Deva, and his wife Jenny Deva. In the 13 years from 2004 to 2017, Te Kāinga has helped and supported a total of 2,032 people with their mental health problems. Of these, the 14 top mental health problems are stress, caregiver stress, grief and loss, alcohol and addiction, depression, schizophrenia, psychosis, dementia, Alzheimer's, anxiety disorder, behavior problems in children and adolescents, relationships, parasuicides or attempt suicides, makitapiri, or illnesses caused by ancestral spirits, bipolar or schizoaffective disorder, and epilepsy. Those are the top 14 mental health problems. In conclusion, I believe we are on the right track in the development of a community-based mental health service for the Cook Islands. Although it's taken us 14 years since the WHO 2003 meeting in Fiji, which was to discuss ways to improve mental health services in the region, we have made a good start in addressing mental health issues in the Cook Islands. But there is still much more to be done. Government must allocate a budget for mental health, which should be available to the Ministry of Health, to Te Kāinga and other stakeholders as core funding to continue this work, which include, first, the Minister has mentioned, the building of an acute psychiatric unit on Rarotonga for psychiatric emergencies, psychiatric day centers, a capacity building for psychosocial rehabilitation day centers, to improve the provision of respite for family caregivers and rehabilitation for those in recovery from mental illness, relearn social skills, begin to accept their illness and to cope with the stresses in their daily lives. Counseling services for relationships, stress-related trauma, alcohol and substance abuse, community education to reduce stigma, including suicide prevention strategies, information, alcohol and education, yeah, I see that, parenting and relationships education for parents and youth, and human resources training for visible frontliners like the police, teachers, nurses, doctors, wardens, church, community leaders, volunteers on basic mental health to enable them identify cases early and to refer for treatment. Nurses and doctors need training in mental health and so that they can become multi-skilled. Home carers must be trained to help families care for the dependent elderly and disabled loved ones. Self-help support groups development and strengthening. For example, autism, AA, suicide survivors, Al-Anon for family members of alcoholics, etc. Kimanuia, thank you for listening.
As you might have noticed, Mariana took a little longer, and I think it was important she was able to say what she had to say. So when you do the evaluation on this session later, don't tell me I didn't keep to time, please. Right, we've heard from the government, civil society, and we're now going to go with the Honourable Member William Heather, who is the leader of the opposition, and give us the view of a community person as well as the Democratic Party. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, everybody here, especially to Our Excellency, the High Commissioner of New Zealand, and also to our traditional leaders, ki te doia kainuku I te rātua, kainuku tāne, kia ora, and pera katoa ki tātou katoa te o tāwidea te tua, o tātou e mau ari te tai tūranga ngā te iru te tō tātou Pāsireia, kia ora ana ki o kotou katoa. How is mental health addressed in the Cook Islands? And if it's effective, I'm saying no. I'd like to tell you a few things, how I experience with my mother who's going through the same illness. My mother is 84 years old. About 8 years ago, she went through this illness. She started. And her older sisters before her went through the same thing, and they already passed away. And during our reunion this year, we had a workshop set up with Papa Dr. Fariu and Donna and her helper in Ararangi with our family. The whole reunion family were sitting there, and we had this workshop. It's about how we're going to address this issue. Maybe, I don't know, maybe our uncles, our aunties will have it later on. At least our children will know how to address some of these issues. At that workshop, there were two people that got up and started arguing among ourselves. The other one said, no, leave it to the family to look after their own parents. And the other one said, we need a special unit to be built for these people who's going through this illness at this time. Anyway, finally I got up. I said to them, sit down, both of you. Listen, I've been looking after my mother, and my son's looking after my mother with his girlfriend. Also, my niece, they are living with my mother now. They are the ones looking after her. And at times, when we get together on Sundays, we take her with the family at the Ropati residence. We sit there for a big kaikai, meeting all the family. Through this, the old lady get to meet her sisters and nephews and so on. Anyway, through talking with Dr. Fariu and Donna, we realized that this is not a small issue here in our country. It's far bigger than what we think. A figure was given to us for one of the outer islands. The age group from 55 to 65, 80% was told that night 80% is heading that way on one of our islands. It's very, very bad to me. Going through my mother, it's enough for me. And hearing this 80% going towards that on one of our islands, it's very bad. And now we've taken the doctors of those islands. Are we doing the right thing? What about if it was you? Put yourself in that situation. How would you address this? To me, let's put the doctors back where they belong, with the people. I'm sorry, Minister. That's what I think about the outer islands. Doctors being removed.
I'd rather take them back. Anyway, in prison, there's 2 young boys with the same illness who's living there. Unfortunately, I have to go and help get one of my uncles down for the doctor to give the injection to keep him calm. I have to take him, I have to hold him down because of my size, he couldn't move. So we took him to prison, and I didn't like what I did. When we took him to prison, I just looked at it. I said to myself, what have I done? For my uncle to go in here, he doesn't deserve that. So last year, I put a question to the Minister of Health. Where are we with this issue? How are we addressing this issue? And the thing was that came out was money, funding. I'm disappointed. Lives of people we put aside. Our people, our old people, they've worked their back, they've carried this island, this country. And for us to forget them just like that, come on. So to finish, I'd like to ask government, please give some money, give some help to these people who's trying their best to help our mentally health mamas and papas. So to me, Speaker, I'd like to say congratulations to Dr. Fadio and Donna, and also Mama Taikoko for doing a very good thing for our elderly. So all the best, God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Member William Heather for his perspective on this very important topic. Akamaara i koto e akarongono maira e te painu e vao, tāniu niu mai tō tātou phone number, 5-ono-a-waru-rua. Tāniu niu mai ki oka mai tō koto manako ki te mama i runga i te phone. Now, we are now going to our last panellist, and this is from a different perspective. Memory Mills. Many of you would have seen the newspaper a little while ago. Memory had a son who had a problem, and I will let her tell you the story. And if she goes a little bit over 5 minutes, please excuse us. It is a very emotional situation, but a very strong woman, because she's taken upon herself to be a community advocate for people with mental illness. So we need to give her the time. And she did actually time her speech just 2 minutes over. So let Memory take the floor.
Kia ora and good day to everyone here this evening. Before I start, I'd like to thank Mrs. Nikki Rattle for giving me the opportunity to join the panel. This topic is one that is very close to my heart. What I say here today is not intended to hurt or be an attack on people or organisations working for the good of health. I speak entirely from my own experience with my son Tremaine, who committed suicide in 2016. When I moved to Rarotonga with my family in 2013, I realised that life in Rarotonga is not as easy as life in Australia, but it's very rewarding. Being surrounded by family and friends, what more could you ask for, especially here in Paradise? We had the opportunity to join a church group and get my children involved in the youth. What could possibly go wrong? I could see a bright future for my children. Tremaine and I used to sit and share his plans for life too. However, in 2016, all his plans became nothing when he made his choice to take his life. Since Tremaine's death, I've reflected back on his life and can now pick out all the little signs that my son needed help. I don't hold a degree in psychology or have extensive knowledge in mental illness. But after losing my son and having previously battled depression myself, the stigma around mental illness is overbearing, especially in the Cook Islands. Those who suffer from depression due to traumatic experience or chemical imbalance are instantly labeled as mental. Why? Mental illness can range from anxiety all the way to schizophrenia. For those people who suffer from depression or anxiety, being lumped into a spectrum where you also have schizophrenia is unnerving. And when I am categorized as being mental, that can be quite upsetting and isolating. Is this one of the many reasons locals are hesitant to speak up about mental health issues? I personally wouldn't want anyone to know I was mental, crikey. Depression is an illness that has no mercy, and though our beautiful boy fought as hard as he could, in the end, it reached out and took him. So, if I'm going to be quiet about it, how is one to know about my situation? We need to bring it out in the open. There is no one place or person in the Cook Islands that anyone can go and see unless you go to the hospital, of course. There are signs scattered around the island about drink driving, safe sex, but what about positive mindsets, about suicide or mental health? I have a lot of questions. Why Tremaine? How could I have been a better mum? Not a day goes by where I don't think about my son and I wonder about the what ifs. Why? With God's grace, I'm able to be here and talk to you about my experience. I have 2 younger children at home that I have to care for, and I ain't going to have a repeat. As a parent or guardian, we tend to have this mentality that nothing is wrong or will go wrong with our children. Trust me, it can happen to anyone. After we buried our son, I had visits from qualified people who deal with mental health, but I didn't know any of them until after the incident. I'm not here to say the professionals are doing their jobs, they're doing a great job. Our government needs to put an effort into mental health. How about setting up a 24/7 counselling line that is local, not overseas? Yes, it all involves funding, but that's where government needs to step up. Funding should not be an issue when people's lives here are at risk. It's been nearly 2 years since my son took his life. I haven't heard much about suicide prevention, but word gets around quickly when someone has attempted or has already gone. My answer is no, mental health is not being addressed effectively. Sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. Open communication with young people when things become too hard to handle is important. And really, how much does it cost to stop and have a chat? That one convo may just save a life. I'll gladly make the time. Tremaine was definitely talking to me, but he needed treatment. I didn't know what the symptoms were to be able to realize that he needed proper treatment. Had I known or realized this earlier, I could have looked into doing more to help him, but alas, I was none the wiser. When our kids are depressed, it can feel to them that they would never get out from under that dark shadow. However, they need to know that even the most severe depression is treatable. So if the depression is keeping them from living the life they want to, they need to know that there are other options to help them, even for us as parents, to be able to support them in that process. Together, we can learn about depression, treatment options, and have access to someone who will help us decide which approach is right for them. From therapy to medication to healthy lifestyle changes, there are many effective treatments that can help overcome the depression, to help our kids feel happy and hopeful again, which will help them reclaim their life. There is a lack in support for people that are considering suicide, or even people who have lost someone to suicide. Young people end their lives in an instant without any second chances and usually without making any obvious cries for help, leaving loved ones shocked and bewildered. I'm sure I'm not the only one that sees there is a rising epidemic of suicide in the Cook Islands. One other point I'd like to make before I go is social media. Kids these days are on their phones 24/7. It's how they communicate, and sometimes that interaction can lead to negative outcomes. For example, bullying in cyberspace. When you have people posting on Facebook saying you're an idiot, You're no good. You're going to start believing it, aren't you? Parents and guardians need to monitor their children's online lives. We need to hold seminars and regular discussions in schools about the issues of mental illness, cyberbullying, and suicide. It's real, people. No one should ever have to go through this. Let's change our mindsets. Families tend to keep things hidden. Our Polynesian culture seems to be, don't tell anyone about it. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is an issue that needs to be addressed now. We need to talk about it. We need action. I have had so much support from close friends, family, and the church. But what about people who are not part of a church? When there is no help or support from professionals, who do they turn to? Let's get together and construct a straightforward suicide program that can be launched in the Cook Islands, something which caters to those who are considering suicide, those who have attempted but pulled back, and those who are left dealing with the scars of losing a loved one. There are so many different organisations doing different things, it's confusing. Why can't we create one group that will take the lead in suicide prevention and place the issue at the forefront of the community? Till that happens, I have 2 good ears and am willing to help where I can. Thank you.
Me take maata memory. That completes our presentations from the speakers in the front here. Now it's your turn. We've taken almost an hour to make the presentations from the front. The intention was to take just a little longer than half an hour. But you have to agree with me that it was worth hearing what came from the front here. And so, we have some messages from the outer islands that I will share with you. Thank you. Are there any comments, any questions, any contribution as to how we're going to address mental health? I prefer to say the word mental health rather than mental illness, but maybe that's the problem. We should say mental illness because my objective for this evening, my personal objective for this evening, that stigma is something we're going to do away with in the Cook Islands. Look at somebody with mental health, just like your auntie or your mama or your papa with diabetes, with high blood pressure, with heart disease, with any other maki-maki they might have. We don't call them awowo because mental health is an illness. Mental illness is a maki-maki. So let's treat everybody just as we do with any other kind of illness. That's my objective for tonight, that those of us here in the room, those listening in, and those who are on the internet, that is a message that can get across. Oh, that's all right. For us islanders, you know, we have this awful word, awowo. It's a terrible word to call somebody with a mental illness. So, who's going to go first? Yes, thank you. Please state your name, and if you're from an organisation or you're a community member, let's hear from you. And be brief, just as I've been brief here with these panellists, the same. And if you want to address a particular person or a general question, then somebody will respond to you. Thank you.
My name's Connor Leathley. I'm from the Cook Islands News. I'm just wondering if you think that there should be an age limit on children playing contact sport. It's been shown that there is an increased risk of brain injury, and young people are particularly susceptible to brain injury. So should there be an age limit? So, yes. Should there be a minimum age to be able to play?
At the moment, there is no minimum age for contact sports for children. Right? Yes? Let's take a few questions, and then we'll get some answers to you. And the panellists will be thinking about who's going to respond to that question. And the question is about a minimum age amongst children for contact sports. Thank you,
Kia ora.
Ngarima.
Kia ora, Madam Speaker,
Kia
the
ora.
panel, family and friends. My name is Pastor Temu Ngarima George from the New Hope Church, as well as the director of the Wakanui Mission. I listened to the panel sharing the experiences and what you came through. But to be honest, I don't believe mental health sickness is a sickness. It's a spirit. It is a spiritual forces, I believe, because my training, I was trained in Australia, and I received a Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies and Psychology. I counseled many Cook Islanders and Pacific Islanders in New Zealand, in Australia, concerning this maki-maki. Because the Bible teaches we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but spiritual forces. That's what Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus, chapter 6, verse 12. Secondly, I don't believe sickness is caused by anything or by food. I believe because of sin. For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And the penalty of sin is death. But we don't want to address this issue. Oh, but the question is, what are your solutions? I believe the only answer for mental health, for any other sicknesses among the people, receive Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior, to be your healer, your deliverer, and your favor.
Thank
That's
you,
the only
Pastor.
answer.
Thank you, Pastor, for your view. My question to you is, what are you doing? I don't want an answer now, but it's for you to think. It's all very well asking others, but what are you doing about it? So, yes, I can't see who's behind Peter. Yes, you can have the...
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
My name's Nick Wood. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've trained in South Africa, worked in South Africa in the townships there. Also worked in New Zealand and also work in the UK at the moment. I think the main thing that kind of across those three countries I've learned, one of the important things is mental health prevention is so important, and early intervention is key. So having awareness raising in schools, and normalizing mental health and mental illness. And actually, there's an issue talking about actually normalizing it and saying actually mental health can affect anybody and everybody. And so that way, when you raise it with children very early on, and you're normalizing it and saying, well, actually, it's just part of being human, and we're all susceptible to it, and let's talk about it, because the more you talk about it, the more you destigmatize it. And the easier it becomes to address the issue, and the more easier people have routes into actually accessing services, because they're more aware of the issues. So I just wondered what it's like within Cook Island schools. How is the issue raised around mental health?
Right. Thank you very much. And of course, you're going to stay and help us sort all that out then, aren't you? One more question, and then we'll get some responses from the front. Yes, take the floor.
Kia ora. I'm here for the Cook Island National Council of Women, and we are also we work with the Miriana, with the cases. I'm hearing the minister saying that they have a plan in place for a building, right building for our mental health cases, and I'm happy that the government is now going to do this building, because sometimes Miriana have been nearly beaten by some of the cases, the patients that she been treating, and that's where I'm coming from. I would like this building to be finished as soon as possible to save Mariana and her assistance. Thank you.
Thank you, Taputu. We'll take these four questions and address them, and then I will come to you first in the second lot of questions. Thank you very much. So, the first question from the Cook Island News, has anybody thought about a minimum age for children with contact sports? Any takers of that, or anybody in the audience who might be involved in the area? Has that been an issue that's been discussed? Anybody in the front? No? Anybody in the audience who has any idea? If not, an area to be looked at. And you're thinking about the effects of the contact with brain injury, of the illness that it caused mentally. Thank you. Doesn't look like there are any confident takers right here. Let's go to the second.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that
okay.
We're not, or I'm not dodging it. I absolutely have no idea. So
yeah.
I think that's how everybody is.
Sorry, what was your...
Would you want your children to play a contact sport?
Wow. I've seen lots of children playing contact sports, so I'm sure parents give their approval, so I would say yes. So, but you've brought an issue that's not been discussed. I know that we were talking earlier about mouth guards, about teeth, not so much about the brain. So something to look at, I am sure, in another forum that we can address. And the second one was with the Pastor Ngarima. Pastor Ngarima, always the Orometua, and will always be the Orometua. And good on you for pushing on with your profession in life and your conviction in life, Pastor. But think how the church can help people with the problems. The third one that we had was the gentleman from the back here who is a psychologist. I really like what you gave. Let me ask Mariana if she'd like to make a comment to that. As Mariana runs lots of workshops, but I totally agree with you, because I think what Mariana is doing is preventing the mental illness from occurring with people that she's identified in her walks about, and that's including the outer islands as well. But it would be lovely if you could have a word. If those of you who are here tonight in the field could make an arrangement, Doctor, and I know Ani Panyani, who's one of the nurses who works with Doctor, and Mariana, you could come up with a strategy quickly if you're going to leave the country. And there's some counsellors in the room here. Yeah, come forward and offer your help, because that's what we're here for. If there are needs identified, there are means of doing it, because as you heard earlier, we don't have the resources, the experts to make these things happen for an improvement, for a change. But there's somebody right in the audience here and who's able to, and we will speak to you after if we may, please. And the last one was Taputu. I'll let the Minister talk to you quickly.
Very quickly, I agree. The security of both the patients and those who are caring for the patients are extremely, extremely important. That's still an issue that we try to do, and that's why we are putting some of our patients in prison for security purposes. And of course, over there you've got the prison wardens that can help maintain the safety both of the patients inside as well as those around them. In the case of Mariana, I can understand she does need a lot of security around her dealing with these patients.
Thank you. You all right?
I think while we are waiting for a seclusion unit to be built, we will continue to use the prison. In some ways, I like using the prison. Our patients tend to recover much quicker in that environment. I'm not sure whether it's burly wardens that we have there. Somehow, they tend to recover much quicker than when they were in the ward. Thank you.
Thank you. I did see someone stand up there, but let me give the floor to you in the white top sitting on the side there. Yes. Let me give the floor to you first. Behind you, please, Isaac. Yes.
Kia ora the panel and
Kia ora.
everyone here. I am Rarotongan Hawhaitutakian, and I'm going to speak for myself. I went through this twice. I was teaching at Blackrock Preschool. It attacked me there in 2011. And there's a lot of things contributed to depression. It attacks you from all corners, whether you like it, whether you're a prime minister, a doctor, a scientist, a secretary, a mum. I'm a full-time mum. I have 2 girls. They have graduated in New Zealand. One is a spatial designer, and the other one have a Bachelor of Arts in Pacific Studies and History. Problems at home can contribute to it. And not only that, and other things at workplace, I'm talking about the level of stress in our jobs. Then I've been asking, in 2015, my husband took me to New Zealand. There are a few doctors that I went to see, and it did not help me. It did not. I'm not blaming them, but it can happen to anyone. Understanding about someone that have a depression is a key to it. And qualified people, relevant people, I would like to ask the Minister of Health, please do look into it. I know I have met, and she has stayed with us in New Zealand. This is a Kukalan girl from Matavera, and I believe she's nearly there to be qualified to graduate with her master's in psychology from Waikato. And I believe this girl, I have been talking to her about my experience.
Good.
Her, being a psychology, she assessed and listened properly and carefully.
Yeah.
GPs here in Rarotonga and anywhere else, they fix your problem. But it doesn't always work. I'm sorry to say, the doctors and some people on the panel, you are working in the mental health organization. Please do not get angry, because I find that we need people like me to be heard and heard properly.
Thank you.
Because it brings a healthy mind. It helps us to adjust what we are going through. If we are not being heard, we are being told off.
Okay.
It's not nice.
Thank you, Mama.
It doesn't fix the problem. But I would like the health minister, please do look into this area, bring relevant people. Thank you.
Me take mata for the contribution, Mama. I'll go te tuato to you in the back with the green shirt on. I'm sorry to use the colours of your clothes to identify you, because I'm not quite sure.
My name's Jeanette. I have needed to consume mental health services at a couple of stages in my life. One of the biggest things that I wanted to know is what are you guys going to do about the confidentiality of people that are needing those services? I experienced an extreme trauma a couple of years ago upon the death of my mother, upon a couple of other things. And I decided that rather than go through what I needed to here, I took myself to New Zealand because I knew that confidentiality just doesn't happen here. So I left here, got the help that I needed, came back and was rearing to go again. So yeah, that's what I want to know. What are you guys going to do about confidentiality?
Yep. Thank you for that. And there was a hand up over here. We'll take that question and then we'll address that, and I will read you some questions from the outer islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and the panelists in the front. I think I'll just come to the point.
Yes.
Listening to the 6 speakers, I can see it's the money that we haven't got a budget. So seeing the minister is here, I would like to move a motion now that the government to allocate a budget for our mental health issues. Because mental health will always be here until to the end of the world. It's not going to go away. It's always be here.
Yeah.
And I have members who have mental illness, mental health issues.
Yeah.
But they are both in New Zealand. But one of them, she's got this special medical pills she's taking, so she's all right. But when she started, it was quite difficult for my brother and his wife to find ways of getting her the right medical care. This pill is very expensive, but because they fought and fought and fought for the right of their child, I tell you, each person have a right to a good life.
Yeah.
So their health in Wellington had to give her this special tablet. So now she's all right. She's going to the university. She's doing very well. And she's living at home.
Good.
So I move, Minister, I am here invited as an executive for the Cook Island Party. That's when my invitation came, I was invited because I'm on the executive. So, Mr. Minister, in your next minister meeting, take this issue into the cabinet and make sure it happens, because it's not going to go away. Miranda is finding difficulty. After 14 years, the government hasn't provided her with any funding. She's running around finding NGOs from overseas and over here too. Our little housey sometimes helps her. And I'll come to the accommodation. You know, our mental people are not criminals. I don't agree they should be in prison. So I would like to ask the minister for this building, when you build it, make it like a home. They have their bedrooms, they have a kitchen, whereby whoever is working with them, teach them all the life skills they needed to look after themselves and to make sure they are taking their medication. And another thing, I think it's the parents. The parents need to be educated. Educated, because I can't see some of the parents here.
Okay.
So I have a lot of issues to come.
But that would be enough for now, Ake. We can talk about the others.
All right, thank you.
But you've given some very good thoughts. In fact, in that short time, 3 issues you've brought up. The money, the building, and the parents to be educated. Wonderful, you did very well. I'm going to have the panels respond to, if they want to respond, if you need the response. I think the lady on the side there was giving us a very clear message. It can happen to anybody, and nobody's going to deny that. Whatever you are, whatever your role is, it's going to affect any of us. And that's the problem. That's why some of us hide. Because, you know, why me? Surely not in my job. I shouldn't be suffering from that. So thank you, Mama, for your very encouraging words. And the minister was nodding when you were talking, so he got the message. And the next one with the lady down the back with the green shirt, confidentiality. And it's not only about mental health, but at this session, we'll let Dr. Fario, would you like to comment to that?
Yes, I
quickly?
just want to touch on that.
Yes, please.
You know, confidentiality, although we have policies on it, when it comes to our patients, to the families, it's very difficult. This is one issue that I battle every day when we have, or when I call family meetings. You know, there's a lot of support from families. Mothers and fathers want to know what's happening to their children.
Do you want to talk to confidentiality?
If I refuse their request for what is happening with my child, they will go to the next person above me. No, it's not unusual to have people going to the minister to release information about such a person. So it's very difficult, and where do we draw the line? If we keep it to ourselves, or quite often the person don't get much support at all. No support from families. And my take is, if they agree to family meeting, if they agree to giving the information to others, then I'll go with that. One time we had a patient that we wanted to let all his friends, his parents, all his siblings to come to this meeting to talk about him and what do we expect of all these people to do should he relapse out in the community, on the field. So in some ways, it does help to break the confidentiality, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you. I guess it's all right to break the confidentiality with the agreement of the person affected. Then they should consult with him for that. But good on you for going to New Zealand, because you didn't have that confidence in the situation and you're better. It's wonderful. It worked out very well for you.
Except in one situation where if a patient discloses that they want to hurt themselves or they want to hurt someone else, then we have to tell someone else. We can't keep it to ourselves.
A matter of safety of others around. Give me a bit of time to read to you what's come over the radio with our friend sitting there. In our families, we bring our children up to be respected and become good role models. We endeavour to teach them truth and honesty, to do the right thing. When we teach them the opposite, what does that do to our children? Leaders of our country need to be good role models. If we have leaders that is not honest, what does that do to our people? I do not think it is effective how we are addressing mental health in the Cook Islands. Example, the shooting we had recently, nothing has been done about it. Our society needs leaders with integrity, honesty, and can someone tell me exactly what is being done for those with mental health? Do we have resources in our community that currently work to promote children's mental health? If so, what are they? To the panellist, in your opinion, what factors influence mental health the most and why? Issue for the panellist. What are some barriers or challenges in reducing stigma associated with mental health? That's come, it doesn't say where it's come from, but that's come on our radio. So think about it, panellists. And this one says, I don't agree with Pastor Ngarima George. We have body, physical illness, mental illness, and we must understand this. Then there's a caller from New Zealand. I think one of the things that stand out is people really do not know what services are available, as pointed out by our youth rep. Maybe one of our steps forward is making available where and how people can get help. But I wholeheartedly agree that destigmatizing mental health and suicide are very important steps towards improving mental health in the Cook Islands. Hey, pokarakara. Yay. These are excellent input over the radio with people sitting at home not able to be with us. And these are all points that have been mentioned. Is there anything in these notes that have not been addressed? From my reading, most of the things that have been queried have been addressed in the panelist speeches and from the front. But we shall look at them, and for those of you who've written these notes in, we are very grateful, we are very happy that you have taken the time to write these letters to the Speaker's debate. You can be assured that we're going to take notice of what you said, because what I think should happen with the result of our discussion tonight is that we need to give them to the policy makers. We need to give them to the policy makers so that it'll pay the time we've come to sit here. It'll mean something in giving up our time and coming here, that we haven't just come to talk backwards and forwards and nothing happens. And this is one of the reasons that Parliament has brought this to the public, because you can't come to the Parliament to give the members of Parliament your view, but we have come out to you. Because there are three things a member of Parliament must do when they're elected as members of Parliament, right? One is to make the laws for the good of the people of the Cook Islands, and we must hold them to that. Secondly, they oversight, making sure our budget is used properly for our well-being, right? And you've talked about money tonight. And thirdly, representation. These are the three things, important things of members of Parliament. They represent the people, and you're here. You're the people who voted, the people who are in the outer islands, who've written in and listening in. And so the Parliament has come to you in the Speaker's debate. And it's something I think that we're going to do for the future, because look how many of you there are here tonight. Most amazing. So, any more questions? I saw some other hands that were up. There's a lady up the top there, and somebody here, and yes, Andrew and Anthony rather, and the guy at the back. You already have the mic, so...
Kia ora ana.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Josh Baker, and I'm a Cook Islander. I understand that this is a sensitive topic, but what services are currently being set up to cater for the LGBTQI community here? Because I understand that there's a large, well, not really that, but there's a percentage that's included in the community. So I was wondering if there's currently any services that are being introduced to address that.
Could you just define the abbreviations you've just used? Because my guess is there are many people in the room who may not understand what that means.
Yeah, so that's the lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, queer community.
Thank you. Yes, and the lady at the back there.
Kia ora ana. My name is Tabitha Berg. I work for Cook Islands Red Cross. Just a quick question. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but my father suffers from depression and alcoholism, and I'm aware since Charles Little passed away, there's no longer any proceedings of the AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm just wondering if there's any development on getting those meetings ignited again. Thank you.
Thank you. One more, take one more question. And as we do in Parliament, you can agree amongst yourself who's going to go first. There's three hands at the back there. The gentleman before the women then. Please do.
Kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora ana.
Firstly, I'd like to take my hat off to Te Kāinga with Miriana and all the work that she's been doing over the years for non-government organisations. Has been very helpful, as I know from the past. I've met many of people that have attended. I want to put out to our government to offer scholarships to our own people to study psychology and psychiatry, that these scholarships be offered to our own people and that it becomes fruitful in the future, and also to educate our own children about mental health. We all have mental health issues. We must acknowledge ourselves first. So tonight, go home, speak to your children. Talk to them about mental health. There's nothing to be ashamed of. That way, first and foremost, I'm talking about education. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Henry. And Mama Maria, you had your hand up earlier. You go ahead. And then I'll come back to you at the back. We'll take this, and then we'll look at the answers and responses, and then carry on from there. Yes, you keep an eye on who's got their hands up. Yeah.
Maria Henderson Tokingo, Kia ora tātou katoto.
Kia ora ana.
Te romato tetu. Well, I speak on behalf of the 60 plus. We are a social club, very active as far as the working mechanism of the Kainga. I have one stage of my life wanted to do psychology, but I was told that by my sons that I better forget about it, which I did. But I didn't stop. My whole life I read psychology simply to get close to people. And I have been able to manage that. It's unbelievable that a touch with a person and look in the eyes and smile work wonders. I asked this meeting and the families, what do you as parents do in your homes as far as the mentality of your children? Education comes in, protocol comes in. This is where all the problems can be solved. But no, we speak up about mental health. We all suffer from mental health. I, for myself, started off visiting the elderly. Started off 15 of them. A lot of them have passed on. It's unbelievable and give me a lot of happiness to see the smile on their face. But this is what we need to do. As parents, communicate with each other. We all have problems. We all have problems. But if you keep it to yourself, you'll never get over it. I'm asking as parents and everybody to communicate with each other. Just to say, oi, be e koe te ara. It's unbelievable. It's help you a lot. Te ere nei koe ki e, ke reo ka atoro. All this simple. I'm sorry I have at one stage of my visitation, visit William's mum. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you persevere with it, it's unbelievable, the smile they give to you. But this is what I'm asking this meeting as parents. Wake up. That's all there is. Wake up and have a bit of time for others instead of complaining and that sort of thing. Give a lot of thought to giving. Giving comes in a whole lot of things. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mama Maria. Very helpful contribution.
Get up or do something, move. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go in and address these issues that were brought up. May I just ask you at the back who spoke about the LBGT group, What was your question in particular? Is there an organisation set up to address the concerns?
My question really is, are there services that are specific for the gay community? Because everyone suffers from mental illness, but what about people who are trying to come out but they can't because it's stigma here?
Okay, yes. Thank
so,
you.
I guess that comes
I
in
understand.
hand with confidentiality as well.
Yes.
So,
any of the panelists want to address that? Yes. You want to go?
I just want to say, I'm sure you know, but Te Tiare Association does some awesome work, and I know they're looking into a lot of things like that. They've sent members away on trainings and counselling and things. Ideally, it would be awesome if it wasn't just up to Te Tiare to do things like that, but in the meantime, I think it's really great that they are. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on was the confidentiality issue. I'm not a service provider or anything, but Memory earlier mentioned like a local counselling line, but I think that is one of the issues with that, and that's why the youth line, the New Zealand youth line, we were connected to that, and I think we still are, and a lot of people here worked really hard to get that going. And when I was working at Internal Affairs as a youth advisor, I called to check that it was still working. And I think it's a good service because I told them, the lady answered, she asked how she could help, and it's free to call from here. And I said, I'm just calling from Internal Affairs to check that this line is still working, that's all. And she said, oh great, are you sure there's nothing else I can help you with? Like she thought I had just chickened out of asking a question, and I was like, no, really just checking that the service is working. She's like, you sure? And I was like, yep, okay, bye. But they're pretty thorough, so I think, I'm not sure about the other services and I can't speak to that, but I think at least having that free connection to Youthline is awesome, and I hope that people are making use of it.
That's good. Did you want to comment to that? All right. And our second concern was from the lady who works for Red Cross, and that was about the AA. Mariana.
Respond to that one. Oh, I'm very happy that you actually brought that up because, yeah, I know we lost Charles. That was tragic. Right now, there is a volunteer from the States, and he's here till end of, about 23rd of the month, and he's happy to run some meetings. So, so the aim, we've been trying to get people, the locals here, to come and for the meeting so we can actually train them to take responsibility for the meetings. So it would be good if your partner or you can come. Yeah, I think there's one other person who is wanting AA meetings. The Kāinga actually helped to set AA meetings up in 2005, as part of alcohol program. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. So that's good.
You want the number? You can ring
it won't
us.
harm to advertise the number in case other people are wanting to access it.
Or you can ring us because the Kāinga is one of the contacts.
Okay.
20162. That's the office.
Thank you. That's good. I did also have some inquiries about AA meetings a while back and spoke to Mariana as well. So I'm glad you brought that up too. Now, the third one, Henry, you talked about asking the Minister to set up scholarships for our young people for education. Funny, I had a conversation with the tutor of the nurses up at the hospital the other day. Now, this is the thing. We've started our own nursing school in the Cook Islands. Thank you very much to the government who supported that. It stopped for a while. And one thing I've observed over the years is that we put nurses through, even the nurses who trained a long time ago. They love to go to be a midwife because it's it's an everyday lovely thing, look after babies and mums, and people are keen to that. But I have not in the whole time, and I'm a nurse as well, and I didn't train as a psychiatric nurse. I have never seen one person go away to study about mental illness. Now, why is that? It's not of interest. People are probably scared, don't know enough about it. So, it's something I think we should look at. That could be a good step in the right way of bringing it of interest to nurses. Do you think? Yeah, so thank you, Henry, for bringing that forward, which can contribute. And Mary is very good at putting curriculums together, and she could probably look at that and see how we can do in little steps. Maybe not a psychiatric nurse right now, but let's look at how do people recognize that somebody's got some signs and symptoms of some illness or the manako that we can deal with at a level that can be very helpful. Yes.
I'll be very quick. We have been encouraging a lot of our students to look more particularly into psychiatry and psychology.
Good.
Somehow, it doesn't seem to attract our students. As you know, that if you want to study psychiatry, you are actually studying to become a doctor, but specializing in psychiatry. And of course, with psychology, which is looking at behavior and so forth, we have been trying to encourage, even through some of the medical schools. But seeing that you have highlighted those two professionals, I think it's also important that we can talk more about it with the Ministry of Education as well as ourselves.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes, very good. Let's have a look at the last one that we looked at, 60 plus, Mama Maria. Yes, I know what good work the women in the 60 plus do, and in helping Miriana at Te Kāinga. And your advice on parents communicating with their children, know what their mental state is, how they're doing. It's very, very important. Pretty much basics, but sometimes maybe we're not getting it. There's a number that Te Uru would like to share with us. If you go ahead.
Okay, I realized I didn't actually say the number for Youthline for anybody who's listening who wanted it, and it's 0800 HELP or 0800 4357, or you can text 4357 as well.
Thank you very much. And I saw two hands out here. Yes, Papa. O get to the Uakakwe. Yeah, take in the mic here, mate.
Kia ora tātou te aro. Kia ora tātou te aro mātou titu.
Kia ora.
Il meu te pēmei tā kua kamitike ki o koto. Tō tātou tōte. Pērā kato i koto i ngoi te panel. Because when you were in the air, it touched my heart. What I need to help, all of us got to come together. We come together, I'll do deliverance according to the word of God. Amen. But there's scriptures inside the Bible will set the oppressed free. John 10:10, the thief come to steal and kill and destroy. Jesus says, I come to give you life and life to the fullness. Okay, I'll bring a scripture. Hell. See, if sickness is in spirit, you've got to be in spirit to see. You can't see from the flesh. You got to be in the spirit. Now I bring the scripture in Mark chapter 16, verse 16. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved. Mark chapter 16, verse 15. And verse 17, and these signs will accompany those who believe. In my name they will drive out demons, they will speak in new tongues. Amen. Verse 18, confirm. One that evil spirit, get out someone, get out the person, get out the pigs, get out the dog. This is what's happened. Confirm in Mark chapter 16, verse 18. They will pick up snakes with their hands. They will drink deadly poison. It does not hurt them at all. At the end of the scripture, it says, they will place their hand on sick people, they will get well. Amen. You got to have faith to believe in God. The word I use, the deliverance I use, it's God, not mine, because it's biblical. But I'm sorry, we haven't got enough time. I want to work together with you guys. I didn't want to come in the air, but like that man who rang, doesn't believe to Pastor Ngarima.
Yes, and I might get another one too.
I'll give you another scripture. How do we get the demons out of the people, out of anyone else? It says in Ezekiel chapter 36.
Papa, I think I'm going to have to cut you off because you see, this
is very important
we have
for us.
15 minutes too.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Can I work together with you guys and come and see you guys?
Amen. Amen. There's a lady in the front here. I'll give her the floor because she's wanted the floor for a while. Now, this is really important. We've only got 15 minutes, so be brief so we can all say what you want to say. Ina, please.
Kia ora. My name is Susanna Wigmore. I just come from Paris. The suicide, it's a big problem in the Cook Islands. And the message that was done the first time they make a show movie was to talk about it. Yes, that is the same that Nick is doing now. Talk about it is a normal thing. So normalization is one of the first messages to go.
Yeah.
Second one is that can be permanent sickness or can be temporary sickness, right? You can have a sickness, mental sickness, or depression because your mom has died and you can't support, you can stand for that. And another thing is that you have an unbalanced system of chemicals in your brain, so you are not temporary. It's quite, then you need a medication all your life.
Yeah.
But there is another one, that is the degree of sickness. Yeah. The degree can be a little bit or can be a huge thing, can be something that nobody notice. But if the depression is very big, when it's very big, then you can notice, of course. But the little one, and I'm going there, in the little one, if the suicide in the young people comes probably because one of the causes, the most probably, is the dense of hormones that they have. The hormones play a very important role in this depression or unbalanced mental health. The same happens when you make the second change in your life, that is the menopause. In the menopause, the hormones also play a dancing that can be dangerous sometimes, or can be in a low doses, very low doses. That makes the day by day. So I only
Susanna,
want
I'm
to,
going to have to cut you off if you
I
can
only want to put it on the table,
Yes.
like this is another thing inside the mental health that you have to speak up about the menopause. People,
Excellent.
women in this case, 50% probably of the population, don't speak about that. And it's a very easy thing to fix the menopause.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's a new area you've brought up. We've heard about the postpartum depression, and now you've brought up during the menopause. That's a really important issue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very aware of the time. If you want to have your say, the three of you at the back there, be brief, otherwise we're cut at 7. Please, Ina.
Yeah, thank you. Kia ora tātou katoa. Tū mai o ki runga, not to give a solution to the problem, but there's one thing I picked up. Thank you very much e te tate, ko roko mere ana. I can see there's one big issue, money, finance, to fix all this. But I'm just sad, kariwe ki tēnā te financial secretary or the minister of finance, or even the members of parliament in Konitiangai. This is very important, this debate. And unfortunately, it didn't come around because the business planning By the way, to huingo ko inanga ro taptapu atea kamana. Taku invite ki kone as a CIP executive, and I'm also a public servant. And I'm very much involved in the business planning. I have no doubt that health department has put all these in their budget planning and their proposal. Any new money, you have to fight for it. Because there's a cake and you've got to all fight for that piece of cake. So in this matter, before it even gets into Parliament, there are committees that's going to look at what is the priority and and that is Cabinet. So I believe that we invite Poro e the Homes at it.
Yes.
And I came to this because I went to the Tupapa Clinic one when they did a presentation. It was a big eye-opener for me because I didn't realize there was a problem until I went through, and also in the workplace, because I the depression that's happening. And I went and sought for help. And Dr. Fadiu, there's the help there. We're just waiting for handouts. But and I believe in that. So thank you very much, the speaker, not the debate, and everybody that's given their views in the panel. Excellent. And I'm also like to request a handout, if possible, from the panelists, takoto presentations. You know, and it'll be handy for us. And I'm also involved in the sports when it comes to it does happen everywhere.
Yeah.
Like that is Sister Karani. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Me taki maata no te mane te o mana ko ta o te kumai ke moe te katoto e te yes. Oh, hello.
Kia ora ana katoa. My name is Dr. Amelia Borofsky. I'm a community psychologist, and I worked here for a short time with Dr. Fadiu. I just wanted to echo, yes, finances is a big part of the issue. Hannah, who's also was working as a part-time psychologist, when we came back in January, we thought we would continue with our part-time positions, and then we were told the funding was gone. So you had 2 trained clinical psychologists willing to work for a lot less money, and then there was no money there for the position. And even though there's a clinical psychologist who's going to be hired, they're expecting one person to do a job of 3 ministries: Ministry of Justice, in terms of working with the prison, Ministry of Health, in terms of working with mental health patients, and Ministry of Education, which is prevention, and then drug and alcohol abuse, add everything in. That's too much for one position. And it's not going to be someone that's going to be God and solve all the mental health issues in the country. And so there were people available, and then there wasn't the funding available. And I know certainly Te Kainga has struggled a lot with that, done a ton of work with very little money. But what I wanted to say, without money, I think that it goes back to all of us, and the main thing is stigma, as you brought up, and the solution is to talk about it, which is what we're doing here today.
Right.
And we can all do that without any money and just to talk about it. The 2 biggest issues I saw in the short time I was here was childhood sexual abuse and alcoholism. And I think those are both huge things that we need to talk more about. I noticed when people did bring it up, they felt a little shy, like, oh, should I say this? Or this is a sensitive topic, and we need to move away from them being sensitive topics. So let's keep talking about it, particularly around childhood sexual abuse, I think was the biggest issue I saw.
Thank you, Amelia. You've knocked it on the head. Doesn't cost money to wipe out stigma. I'll give the floor to Thomas at the back, and then this hand right here. And then I think we're going to be rounding up, or must give the nurse a bit of time at the back there. So 1, 2, 3, and you have the floor.
Kia ora tātou katoa.
We only have 7 minutes left.
No problem. I'm not here to talk about the problem. I really want to talk about the solution. I'm privileged to have been working as a counsellor here for 7 years, and I'm still counselling privately. And I can say in that time, I saw a client, an adult, for 12 months that was suffering from depression. And so let's talk about the solution. One solution is we need more people on the ground. That's a definite. What Henry said is true. What Amelia said is true. We cannot address mental health issues here in the Cook Islands without more people working on the ground, working with the people. That's just a definite. The other one was we need a facility. And I'm just echoing what has been said already. I visited young people that have been locked up in prison because of mental health issues, and it's just inadequate. That's just not okay. Not for a country like ourselves. And we need to talk about it. Simple. People need to talk about it. We need professional people that people can talk to, and we need a facility that people can go to when they need respite and help. 3 simple things that we as a community are asking the government that they can provide. Unfortunately, in situations like this, it's always, we're talking to the converted. Everybody in here, we believe it. It's not the people here that need to hear this message. It's everybody else that's listening. Right. And I do hope that as they are listening, that we can be the change that we want to make.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for that. And you have the floor.
Kia ora everyone, my name is John. My question is whether there is a platform or forum where we can further discuss and develop on the points and issues made today. I would love to listen back on today's discussion and form a coherent and appropriate response based on the comments made today. The last thing I want to do is speak based on false or misinterpreted information. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge the efforts made to combat mental illness with what we've got. I would just like to remind the government and the health sector that as public servants, we must not become complacent and accept that this is the way things are. There is more we can do.
I'd like your speech on your phone if you can share it with me sometime.
Yeah, sure.
That would be most appreciated. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Yeah.
Really.
Essentially, I'm just wondering if we can further discuss today's points.
I've taken your point, and very important. Yeah, thank you. And I'll come back to that in a little while. Anna, you wanted the floor? Yes, and I think you're going to be the last speaker for the night, or is there someone else? Yeah. Anna is a nurse at the hospital who works with Dr. Whāriu in looking after people with mental illness. And te rua minute.
Te rua minute. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just got up to introduce myself. I am Anna Panyan. I graduated with my psychiatric nursing in 2015. So I'm the second nurse in psychiatric nursing. Meitaki.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I wouldn't have taken up your time if I knew that's what you were going to do. But nevertheless, said twice, it'll be remembered. It won't be forgotten. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful evening, hasn't it? I am believing that we are better informed. Many things we've heard tonight we were not aware of. And as a group here today, it is going to be really important that you don't leave this beautiful building and do nothing about what you've heard tonight. Each of us can do something, and that could be about talking to people, finding out, and just stop this stigmatism to allow our people to come out in the open. You've seen the people in the front here. You know what services are available. For the young people here, here's a contact, there is the number. And for those who are feeling like I'd like to go and see a doctor, here's a doctor, and here's Mariana. And if you want to talk about you've got a child you're worried about, there's a mum who's had the experience, right? And there's a gentleman at the end who's looking after his mum. So the solution is amongst ourselves. We need to look at ourselves, and we might not know a lot about it, but we can learn, we can do something, we can share what experience that we have. And so I say, meitaki korereka for coming tonight. And I thank our panelists for, they were prepared to come for the shooting, bang, bang, bang. But I didn't hear too much of that. You were constructive with what you had to say, because it's easier to respond to constructive contributions. And definitely to the young man, to John, who talked about another forum. We discovered after the poverty speakers' debate, that it was too sudden, there was so much information, and they needed. In fact, the feedback, may I remind you, you will be receiving an evaluation form. Please write your thoughts on that evaluation form, because the form of the last speaker's debate said that we need to do this again on poverty. There was a lot of information put out. We need to talk some more, not enough talking. And so we're provoking the thinking. We want people to keep thinking about it, talk about it, as Mama Maria said, or one of our mums. Talk about it. And Te Uru has just reminded me, in April, another parliamentary activity with the National Youth Council is a youth mock parliament or youth practice parliament. And we're wanting to promote young people to step up, come out. If you'd like to be involved, just make contact with your youth council. We would very much like to see you in Parliament pretending to be Minister Glassy and the member William Heather at the end, as to what it's really like to be in the seat of making the decisions of the questions that you've brought, as you can appreciate. So I want to say thank you very much to the radio station and to the technicians who's put us on the internet as well, and to the Ministry of Culture. Thank you. Anthony, you didn't get the chance to talk. Is that all right? You can come and talk to these guys. I'm sorry I missed you. But if you didn't get the chance to talk tonight, keep the communications, keep the talking going, and I shall think about how we will come back together in another forum to continue with the talking. So, me take korereka everybody, and we would like you to join us in the back and have a drink and enjoy some finger foods that we prepared for you in returning our appreciation for you being here when you should be at home having dinner with your family. Thank you so much.
Let us close with prayer. Gracious Father in heaven, we thank you, Lord, because you are the great physician and your wisdom is ours. And we pray that whatever has been laid before the panel, that we will take this with your guidance to make health possible for our people. We pray that you will dismiss us now with your blessings. Bless the food we're about to eat. Thank you, Jesus, for loving us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Arara kai kai. We've got lots of information. We're going to write it all together. And it's a passion that you know, as a nurse, it's a topic that...
Mama,